Hi guys, welcome back. I just stopped at the garden today. I was going through town and I decided to stop in and pick some tomatoes while I was going through. I got about a gallon of San Marzanos and maybe a half gallon of, other ones. But anyway, just when I walked into the garden today, it just struck me how loud it is. How many insects and frogs and birds and everything I was hearing, and I just thought it was so cool. And it got me to thinking about Jess Sowards from Roots and Refuge Farm. She talks about back before she became an organic gardener, one of the moments that really pushed her into going organic, how in the past she had always used, whatever normal chemicals they market for especially small beginner gardeners, just Seven Dust or whatever sprays, and that she'd always use those because she always had small gardens. And then one year she just didn't use those because she had a bigger garden and it just wouldn't have been economical to use it, so she started out not using them that year, and the garden was full of bugs and spiders and stuff that kind of took some getting used to. And then later in the season she talked about how she actually ended up, I don't know if it was just the bugs got to be too much or whatever, but anyway, she ended up later in the season, she went and got some of that stuff and used it. I don't know what exactly it was, but anyway, she went and bought some of it and put it on the garden. And then she talks about how the next day she went out and she just was struck by how silent the garden was then. That there were no more insects or spiders, and how it just, really sank in, what all the effects using those chemicals had on everything. And and that was, one of the big things that pushed her into being an organic gardener, was realizing that, maybe it wasn't worth it. And so anyway, I was just thinking about that and how cool it is to have such a noisy garden, and how even though, it's a mess, it's full of weeds, it's chaotic, but even though it's full of weeds, and even though I do have insects, and not all of them are what I necessarily want. There's bees, and that's awesome, but there's also bugs and stuff that are eating some of my produce. Some of the tomatoes have spots where, something was eating on them. And, even though that's the case, and even though it's weedy, and even though some of my plants have had diseases and all that, I'm still getting food. I'm still getting plenty of food, and the garden is noisy, and there's bees and insects eating. Even if I'm not eating everything that comes out of this garden, at least something's eating it, and that's a good thing, right? I would rather something's eating it than it's just laying on the ground rotting. And so anyway, just thought it was pretty cool that even though the garden is chaotic and it's full of insects and it's noisy, that's really pretty cool, and at least it's not full of poison. So anyway, just a little bit of food for thought on this Monday. And look at these okra flowers, aren't they so cool? Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope your gardens are noisy.